Hello everybody, I'm David Schuster, and today we're diving into a topic that everyone seems to be following closely in the lead up to the 2024 U.S. presidential election. It's what people turn to daily, seeking answers, or at least a glimpse, into how this high-stakes election might unfold. We're talking, of course, about polling data, how it's gathered, how it's interpreted, and whether we should trust it this time around. Polls have become a kind of weather forecast for elections, giving us a snapshot of where things stand at any given moment. But as we know from recent election cycles, polls can sometimes be off, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. In both 2016 and 2020, Trump outperformed expectations, particularly in key swing states. Many people are asking whether that same kind of polling error could happen again in 2024, potentially hiding Donald Trump's true strength.
Trump pulling ahead in two of the crucial battleground states. He now leads Vice President Harris by 5 in Arizona. Remember, Arizona was just down to, tens of thousands of votes. Very slim margin in 2020. He trailed by 5 last month in Arizona. So that's a move in the New York Times Siena College poll to his benefit. He is up 2 points in North Carolina right now after trailing there by 2 in August. And he is hanging on to his 4-point lead in the state of Georgia. Here's a look at how close these states were in 2020, which I was just mentioning. Biden won Georgia and Arizona by less than 1 point. Former President Trump took North Carolina by less than 2.
This time around, pollsters are saying, hold on, every election is different. The pollsters are urging us not to assume that this year's polls will suffer from the same issues as in the past, and that's because the polling methods have evolved. Polling experts like Chris Jackson from Ipsos say that substantial changes have been made since 2020 to try to fix the errors that led to underestimating Donald Trump's support. These adjustments include incorporating more detailed data, such as party registration and voting history, to create a more accurate picture. Despite these improvements, some challenges remain. One of the biggest hurdles pollsters face is predicting voter turnout, something that's particularly tricky when it comes to Donald Trump's base. Celinda Lake, a Democratic pollster, admits that it's still difficult to predict who will actually show up on Election Day, noting that surprises could come from both Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris supporters. While Democrats are gaining momentum with younger voters and newly registered voters, Donald Trump continues to draw support from a significant number of people who've been registered for years but may vote for the first time in 2024. Experts say it's not just the poll themselves that lead to confusion, but how we interpret them. For example, in 2016, the national polls were actually pretty close to the final result, with Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote by a narrow margin. However, the perception was that the polls had missed the mark because Donald Trump ended up winning the Electoral College. And then there's the so-called shy Trump voter theory, which suggests that some people who plan to vote for Donald Trump are reluctant to say so to pollsters. Now, maybe this was the case in 2016. Nowadays, if there's one word to describe a Trump supporter, it's definitely not shy. Just listen to some of the responses of a North Carolina rally when TYT asked Trump supporters what would happen to MAGA if Donald Trump lost again.
Donald Trump, man. My wife calls me Donald Trump. I love the guy. Love the guy.
If you were to lose again, what would that mean to you?
We better buy some more guns, ammunition, because we got what's coming over the border right now is pretty bad. So we got criminals running the show. George Soros, he's got to go. His son's got to go. A lot of people don't know his son's married to Clinton's daughter. So they're all keeping it entwined with each other. So they're keeping it in the money. The crooks are all running the show. You got Kamala Harris. I'm not going to be nasty and call her anything but a name, but we all know who she is. You got Tampon Tim. Where'd this guy come from?
Where did that guy Tim Walz come from? Minnesota. He was governor for 5 years, member of the U.S. House before that for 12, before that a public school teacher. He's not exactly a surprise figure who just burst onto the political or public scene, but the Trump MAGA folks are convinced, thanks in part to Donald Trump, that Democrats are engaged in a shadowy, subversive conspiracy to ruin America. And again, many Trump folks are not shy about saying they believe in Donald Trump and support him. Now, back to the polling. It's worth noting that research after the 2020 election found that there was little evidence to support the theory of the shy Trump voter. Instead, the real issue may have been that Trump supporters were simply harder to reach, as they were less likely to answer polls. Pollsters are aware that fewer people are using landlines these days, so many pollsters have adjusted their methods using a mix of digital and phone surveys to reach a broader audience. But even with these improvements, the pressure on pollsters is high. As the stakes of this election grow, So does the demand for more precise polling data. And getting a truly representative sample of the voter demographics in any given election is difficult. You may poll 40 Democrats, 40 Republicans, and 20 independents, but that doesn't mean the breakdown in the election will reflect those splits in the end. So where does this leave us? Well, while polling can give us a general sense of the race at any given moment, it's clear that there are still many unknowns. Also, the polls being conducted now, a month before the election, are generally not reflective of final election results. A Cal Berkeley study of 1,400 polls conducted a week before an election and going back to 2008 found only 60% were in line with final election results. And the accuracy drops the farther out you poll from an election.
Every race other than maybe 2008 has been close right up to election day. Mm-hmm. And I could be wrong, but it's going to break in one direction or the other. I really believe that. And most of the time, these elections do that. And I don't like to predict elections. I would just say this just doesn't feel like a race that Harris is going to lose. But that's just a feeling. That's just a feeling.
So the lesson in all of this, according to statisticians, pollsters, political scientists, and even campaign strategists, is don't get too happy or sad about any polls. They can help reveal some key themes and concerns among voters, but as to who wins, polls are not the be-all and end-all that the media promoting a poll would have you believe. In other words, if you care about an election outcome, take nothing for granted. Get out and vote. Get your friends and family to vote, and then be patient on election night. Vote tabulation results can often take hours or days, but those are the results that matter. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.